Lazy class partner didn't help at all for our term project, even while I was in the ER. At the end of the semester, he acted as if he was entitled to get an A like I did. This happened a few semesters ago where I was taking a course in urban design. Everyone was grouped in 3 seconds, but one of my group members wanted to join another group with their friend, so I ended up with one other person. Not sure why the professor though this was okay, but I wasn't too worried because I was fairly confident in my ability to do the work. The course incorporated previous studio courses to tie together in a massive topic of urban planning, which included architectural design, environmental sustainability, urban infrastructure, and historic preservation. I tried to brainstorm with my partner on which direction we should go. My idea was focused on residential, since housing would address a huge demand here in NYC. However, my partner seemed content on making the project about industrial buildings, so I focused there. We brainstormed on different ideas, but got the impression that he just wanted me to take the lead as he mostly agreed while not giving much input. Weeks went by and I constantly updated my partner on my progress via WhatsApp while rarely getting any update or feedback from him. It annoyed me a bit, but I was still confident in my work, which was enough to get us through the next checkpoint during our next presentation. At some point during the semester, I got a really terrible kidney stone. It wasn't from junk food or a poor diet. In fact, it was from eating too much black beans and chickpeas. A side note, I asked ChatGPT to come up with a healthy dinner plan to give me a list of food which I used to come up with a meal plan that meets my macro needs. See comment for more. I did feel way better with my new diet, but it eventually led me to having my worst kidney stone of my life that put me in the ER. I was on all kinds of pain meds and had to stay there for several nights. But it didn't end there. The stone was so big that it got stuck. I needed surgery to put in a stent. Don't look up how they put it in. It still gives me nightmares. I had to wait several more weeks and endure pissing deep red blood daily and having yet another surgery to remove the stent, before finally recovering. Throughout this whole time, I managed to put in some work into my project. I was surprised to learn that my partner did absolutely nothing and waited for me to continue my work. Like what the actual fudge? To make it worse, I learned that he tried to present my work as his own. How can people be like that? I emailed the professor about my situation. I explained how I've did all the work so far and sent him screenshots of the chat as well as my project file, which includes all the history logs. The professor reminded me that during the final submission, everyone had to put their initials on the slides of the work that they worked on. Okay, got it. Luckily, I was recovered and ready to present my work. I left out the initials as it wasn't required for presentation, only for the final submission. I felt the need to see what he'd do. I even tried to cut him some slack and gave him some talking points on the parts I'd allow him to claim as his own, even though it was fully my work. He didn't. He kept cutting me off during presentation to talk about my project, as if he had anything to do with it. He mostly repeated the same information that I mentioned while not bring anything of value to point out. The final presentation had several judges who were comprised of local professional and high-level position within the industry. The conversation was always directed at me, so I had a good feeling that everyone understood that I did most of the work as I knew all of the intimate knowledge of the parts. Then came the last day to submit our work. The final slides included my initials on every single page. Apparently, my partner missed that part about the initials and also submitted an older version of my work. A few weeks go by, and I hit him up asking what he got. I was surprised to learn that actually passed with a C+. He was surprised to hear that I received an A- and promptly said that he'll have a talk with the professor on why he received such a low grade. Honestly, why are there people like this? Anyway, not sure if it's malicious compliance, but I did do everything as instructed and ended up having one hell of a semester. Did I mention that I had morphine for the first time during my ER visit? LMAO. Edit. Rephrase ChatGPT/food portion. My place is in the shop? Okay. Update. OG post. Significant other, we had the meeting with my area manager and my boss. My boss tried to paint me as an insubordinate little girl. My area manager wasn't having that and went through the video footage and talked to everybody that was there that day. He talked to my boss and I separately. End result, the bogus write-up was shredded and removed from the system. My boss is no longer allowed to ask me to help out up front because he can get off his lazy ass and do it himself, area manager's words. I am to be in the shop, and if I have nothing to do I can help out other techs or empty the oil drains, and the cleaning duties are to be distributed evenly between everyone on staff. Hope this was result everyone wanted. So, I'm not allowed to use my PTO to cover my sick time, despite what the company handbook says, but if the company and I part ways, they'll cash that crap out? Bosses and upper management constantly refuse my PTO. Crap lapses and expires come next summer, so I'm not particularly stoked about how difficult it has been to use it. I recently got real sick, shitting all day, puking for the rest of it, etc. Boss refuses to submit any sort of PTO to make up for my missed hours. Says he expected me to call out while I had a river of steaming fire coming out of my rectum. I called him as soon as possible, within an hour of my shift starting. That's cool, bro. My company has a severance payout policy. I just won't show up at all for the next few days, get laid off, and now you owe me a couple thousand instead of a couple hundred. Crazy. Update. HR emailed me this morning with an option to Regan, and they said they'll cash my PTO out next check. Hell yeah. Fudge you. We are not allowed to ship product using anything other than a certain company? Okay, sure. I work in the apparel industry, and one of our customers is a company who frequently finds itself on lists of top 10 in the Americas. From our location, one of their gigantic distribution centers is only about 90 minutes away. Once, when we did a very small order for them, result only about 10% of or MOQ, we thought instead of shipping it through ExpressX, why not just drop it off at their DC, since the shipping address was to their DC. It would get there faster than by ExpressX and cheaper too. When our driver went there, the DC refused to take delivery. No problem. We called the person in charge on their side with our company, and we laid out the problem. Well, the person was extremely rude and simply said, "We do not intend to accept any deliveries made other than the contractual method of using ExpressX," and shot off multiple emails to our VP, president, and our holding company's CEO about not following contractually required methods. So, our driver comes back. We shipped the product using ExpressX. 3 weeks ago, a frantic call and a decently large order, but extremely urgent order. Okay, we have our time estimates to complete the work and the shipping date we would be able to manage. Agreed upon, an email. We shipped it through ExpressX even though it was said to use any means necessary to try to get it to them by the shipping date. Enraging phone calls and screaming duels, our holding company's CEO went over the vendor manager's head and to their purchasing and inventory VP. Complained about the manager's behavior and their previous email about only using ExpressX as contractually stated and our adherence to the shipping date, as we packed the trailer and locked it with a seal and date on it. The ExpressX semi came at 1 a.m. to pick up the trailer, not our fault. We followed the contractually stated rules. Guess who just lost 9 major universities in college football from their vendor management portfolio? I'm not allowed to go outside of our travel agency to save money, so I didn't. I have quite a flair for finding cheap travel and accommodation. My travels on a strict budget have taken me to 3 continents so far, so I'd say I've picked up a few tricks. Nowadays, I get the pleasure of doing short trips with my work when attending conferences and seminars. As I prefer not to waste money, I've arranged the trips privately and then requested it paid back afterwards. It worked out well for all of us, budget-wise. Then we got new directions for handling travel costs. We all had to go through a new travel agency whenever booking, well, anything. The top brass held a talk about it and everything. We were warned that onwards, any application for money back after a trip booked privately may be outright denied. I had tried to use the travel agency before but found that it only allowed a few overpriced airlines and hotels, and it wouldn't let you book anything outside of their approved connections. Cue malicious compliance. Where I previously combined train and bus tickets to reduce cost, I now just selected the top option. Oh, 5 times more expensive? Too bad. A nice low-range hotel that covered my needs? No longer available. Choose suggested option. I guess I will stay at the Hilton then. I just got back from a trip that costed 5 times what I could have paid if I had been able to do my thing. No flights were available the day I could have left, so I went a day earlier. No afternoon flight was available after my meeting, so I stayed an extra night. I was basically off work half a week extra because of that travel agency, and the trip ended up costing more than my monthly paycheck. Oh, and the travel agency? They were apparently the lowest bidder on the contract, claiming they'd supply the cheapest travel options. I enjoyed the complimentary champagne. Never call you again? Okay, done. About a dozen years ago, I was working in a banking call center. The company was informed of some governmental change that required us to have a tax ID number for everyone with our business credit card account, and we had some ridiculously short time frame to be in compliance. There were tens of thousands of accounts with this ID missing. It hadn't been previously required. A big group of us were given lists of customers and told to call them and ask for the tax ID number. If they had it, we added it to the account and all was well. If they didn't have it, we were to switch them to a consumer, non-business card. If they didn't want that, we'd cancel on the spot. Due to the short time frame for compliance, the customer had to tell us on the call which they preferred. Another nifty caveat was that we're only making 2 calls and we're not leaving messages. We couldn't drag this out waiting for people to eventually call us back. If we got the person on the first call, we were done. If we still didn't get them on the second call either, the account was auto-canceled. This sounds like a horrible job to do, but it was actually going really well. 99% of the people I called were happy to comply or switch accounts. Then I called Karen. The phone rang, and I was about to hang up when I heard that pause and double ring that tells you the call was forwarded. So I waited. Karen, what? I could hear background noise like she was out in public. Me, hi, this is Jane Doe with XXX Bank and Karen, why the F% hashtag K are you calling my cell phone? Are you F% hashtag / Andy stupid? I've told you people to never call this number. Me, I didn't. The call was Karen. Oh my God, now you're going to lie to me? Pay attention. Never call me again. I use your credit card for everything and pay it, so you have no reason to call me. Got it? Me, yes, but phone disconnects. Malicious compliance kicks off. Okay, so I spoke to you, maybe a dozen words. You didn't provide your tax ID, and I can't call you back because you said to never do that. Next button? Cancel notes? Customer did not provide the tax ID and demanded we never call her again. I really hope she was out shopping and had fun when her card was declined at the next store.